All right, it is Thursday, which means Turtle Boy's here. Turtle Boy is coming off a big golf tournament where he raised a lot of money for Turtle Boy, which is good. Congratulations. Maybe next year I'll show up and have some fun. Sound like you had a good time, right, Turtle Boy? Good.
Yeah, we had a blast, Jerry. A lot of people were looking for you.
Oh, were they good?
Yes.
Well,
People say, "Where's
maybe
Jerry?
next year.
Where's Jerry?"
But I'm glad you're here for two reasons. One, we couldn't get Pierce Morgan. We wanted some Neanderthal cretin who attacked Simone Biles, and we tried to get Pierce Morgan or Clay Travis, and they blew us off. So we got you, and also you have young kids. I want to get to this because I can't imagine how infuriated I would be, how just insanely angry and upset I'd be if I had young kids who were in whatever third grade, sixth grade, eighth grade, and I knew because of these crisis actors in the White House that I would have to mask them up for school, or just to do anything. I would mask up children, as we all know. Children don't belong in masks. Children are not susceptible to the virus. The virus does not kill children, period. You know it's just performance art, and yet you're going to have to do it if you want your kids to go to school. I can't imagine. And you're as unhinged as I am about this stuff.
Very unhinged.
What the hell are you going to do, Turtle Boy? Are you going to?
Oh, we're not gonna do it.
Well,
it's a local decision.
You're gonna homeschool? What are you going to do?
No, it's a local decision. Your local school committee decides it, and we have a little insurrection going of parents here in the Wachusett School District, and there's a plan. There's a school committee meeting coming up. Believe me, in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see all over the state school committee meetings, and why everyone should vote in your local school committee.
Okay, stop with that. Good, everyone vote. I'm talking about masks now. If you think that your friends and your neighbors are going to get together and you're going to defeat in the state of Massachusetts,
it's not the state of Massachusetts.
The mask fanatics.
I'm saying. It's not the state of Massachusetts. It's your local school board. You don't have to the state of Massachusetts doesn't decide if your kids wear a mask.
Okay, did you move? Did you move?
No, move?
Okay, you live in the state of Massachusetts. You know how people think. You know how they will react to this. They're already reacting.
Different parts of Massachusetts, right?
Okay, it's not going to work that way. It is not going to work that way. You know what's going to happen. There's going to be, one case in your town, and they're going to say, "Uh-oh, time to double mask." You know
you've never been past 495, have you, Jerry? It's a different world out here. People are different. We're not all like you communists out east who all think there's red areas out here. You know that?
Yeah, I know. You ran for school committee and you got waxed, which is too bad. I was rooting for you, but they don't like your kind, in Massachusetts. People, independent thinkers, people who read, they don't like that. Just mask up and be a sheep. And I swear to God, you will see people today in Massachusetts, particularly in Boston and Cambridge, masked up. Not one of them knows why. Not one of them knows why they are suddenly wearing a mask again. They're all vaccinated. They're all vaccinated. Some have had COVID. They obviously do not need masks. Everybody knows it's just theater. Everybody maybe not Biden, but Harris and Fauci and Walensky. It's all political theater. We know that. It doesn't matter in a state like Massachusetts. It doesn't matter in New York or Rhode Island or Connecticut or California. This is going to be right now. We're already a very divided nation. Already we see, like things when you see the January 6th hearings and you realize, that there's this great divide in this country. People who, think think the Biden administration is on the level. There are people like that. And then there are others like us who know better. And we realize, the southern border is being overrun by design. We know that. We know January 6th is being treated like an insurrection for a reason. It is all by design. It's all political. We know that. You know that.
I don't know. This started before Biden, though. It was the same mask stupid mandates from the CDC, the WHO, the New England Journal of Medicine in the Trump campaign, too, saying that spouting the same nonsense about the masks. It's the same thing.
But that's not true. The worst. We didn't know what we know now. We didn't know that 0 children have died from COVID without serious underlying conditions. 0. We know it does. I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday Walensky was on, I forget, one of their networks, one of the Biden administration's network, either CNN or NBC, and she says the death rate for children with COVID is much higher than from influenza.
Just a
And
lie. Just
and Phil
bold-faced lie.
Kerpen, who's a good COVID influencer, he's really good on this stuff on Twitter and TV. Just ran the numbers. It was a flat out lie. The head of the CDC, Harvard trained Rochelle Walensky, flat out lied. Now, why would she do that? For political reasons, correct? They want to keep the fear porn going. And last time people were supposed to wear masks, how long ago was that? 4 or 5 months ago?
Oh, May 13th, you got Biden talking about it.
Turtle Boy
Before
went to, Walmart, and, people yelled at him, and there was tension. There was these scenes in stores, in offices, or even out in public where people, and we saw them, they're all over, social media. People said, wear a mask, you're going to kill us all. And this is really intense debate divide. It's going to get 100 times worse now because there'll be more people like Turtle Boy, thankfully, who know it's just theater, who know there's no reason to mask up, particularly children. So you're going to do your best, Turtle Boy. That's all I'm saying. I respect, your defiance, but you know how intense the Nancys, the Karens,
I do, but I think it's
the
gonna be different this
Steltlers.
time
You
around,
know
Gerry.
how intense they are. So I hope you're
I know that,
anticipating.
Gerry. I know that, but I think it's going to be different this time around. I really do. You cannot
It's
give
going to be
people a
worse.
No, it's you cannot give people a taste of freedom and then just take it back. Like there's going to be people this time who were compliant previously who are like, yeah, I'm not doing this. This is a bit absurd. Also, Gerry, this is going to benefit us politically. Do you think people in Arizona right now want to wear masks in the summer? Do you think that?
No,
how's that going to go over?
It's a good point, Troy. I talked to a guy from Virginia the other day, and he said this mask mandate is going to defeat Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe is up by 4 points in the polls. He said people in Virginia are upset about this, and the governor, Virginia is blue now. They're going to force a mask mandate in the fall on children, and people in Virginia are going to be really upset. But see, you're making my point here. You were outnumbered 3 or 4 months ago. You were outnumbered by, particularly in the Northeast, by the mask fanatics. They still believed, masks had some effect. They didn't really believe or understand it was just theater, a way for Biden, the Biden regime, to continue the fear and control. Your numbers, my numbers, our numbers have increased. You're right. People had a taste of freedom. People read up a little bit, maybe, watched a show. They learned they learned there's really no basis for this newest mask guidance, soon to be mask mandate. So you're going to have more people like you. That's my point. It used to be 100 to 1. Turtle Boy be this lone rebel. Now there's going to be much more people like you, like me, who saying this is absurd. I'm not going to do this. They're going to be, people trying to go to a restaurant or whatever, and they, your mask slipped below your nose. It's going to be on airplanes where they're going to be yelling at people who don't mask up their 3-year-old, and people are going to fight back. This is and you combine this, by the way, with the mask, with the vaccine mandate, which is coming, and we'll play you perhaps the best look under behind the curtain you'll get from De Blasio, who I think is obviously a fanatic and obviously a socialist and a tyrant. But I think he said the quiet part out loud, and there are a lot of people like him. There are a lot of these fanatical governors, Whitmer and Cuomo and Baker and Newsom, who can't wait to mandate vaccines. They love this control. When that happens and you go to restaurants or you go to gyms or whatever, and they start saying, let's see your papers. I must see your papers. You're not vaccinated?
That's where my new business comes in, Gerry. The Turtle Boy Fake ID Vaccine Network. Believe me, it's going to be lucrative. It's going to be
You want to, let's do an infomercial. Do you have one you could show me? You want to
it's
give
really
out the
simple.
number?
You just I already have the template. It's really simple. You print them out. You write in whatever doctor's name you want. You pick your vaccine. You write a date, and that's it. It's not like there's a freaking barcode on it. You just write whatever you want on it. No problem. No problem. If that's the game they want to play. No problem.
You will do more time if you get caught making fake vaccine cards than the guy who burnt the police station to the ground in Minneapolis. That guy got 4 years. 4 years,
yes,
which is a lot less than the guy who put his feet up on the desk in Nancy Pelosi. He's facing 6 years.
6 years.
6 years for putting his feet up on the desk in Nancy Pelosi's office. The guy who burned the police station to the ground with police in it. They had to run, as we remember, in Minneapolis. He got 4 years. You will get 4 years if the Biden regime catches you. They're gonna. You think the guys, the QAnon shaman is being mistreated? You do fake vaccine cards. You're gonna do hard time. I mean, I'll support you. Hey, I might even buy one off you.
Okay.
But this is going to those scenes where you see in planes and airports and restaurants of everyone yelling and all the tension. Put your mask on. And it's going to get so much worse because right now there are a bunch of restaurants where we live in a deep blue state that are requiring proof of vaccine right now. Pretty soon it's going to get worse where you're going to have kids, 12-year-olds, who won't be able to play Little League without proof of vaccine. That might fly in Cambridge again or in San Francisco, but it's going to spread. This is part of the Biden plan. People have to understand that this is all by design. It is designed for them to exert control and to polarize.
Well, like I said, it's going to backfire, Jerry. He ran on a platform of, I'm not going to stop coronavirus. I'm going to crush the virus. I think that was his exact word.
I don't know if you've...
Is this crushing?
I don't know if you've noticed, he does not care about going back on campaign promises. Did he say...
It's okay. So how are you going to run on that? That you ran on a platform of you're going to stop coronavirus by your own signaling here. It's out of control. We must go back to masks. Isn't that your fault?
It doesn't matter what he ran on. Did he run on an open southern border and a million new?
Yes, they didn't hide that. That's always been their platform.
If they don't admit it, he doesn't admit it to this day. They say the border isn't open.
Jerry, I remember the Democratic debate where they asked them, who here will pay for health care for illegal immigrants? And all of them raised their hand? All 10? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't care. They don't hide this.
I mean,
this is what they're about.
I love these stories you're now seeing of people said, I didn't know Biden was going to do this. I wouldn't have voted for him. I'm like, you didn't? I mean, what is wrong with you people? But see, I think that tension, that divide, which we're feeling right now, hell, it's exemplified in the NFL. And we'll get to Cole Beasley. Players are fighting each other now because they've created this narrative where if you don't have a vaccine, you're selfish. They can't explain why, because if you're vaccinated, then you shouldn't care about unvaccinated people. But they've created this divide where if you're unvaccinated, I don't know if you've seen Geraldo lately. Geraldo's been on with Hannity's been on the 5, and his whole thing is he scolds, says, "You sons of bitches! If you're not vaccinated, stay away from my grandchildren." And it's just absurd. It's kind of fake, but they want that narrative where if you're not vaccinated, you don't care about your neighbors, your friends. You only care. You're selfish. And you should not be allowed in polite society. You should not be allowed in restaurants, on planes, and your kids should not be allowed in schools. That is, again, by design, and it's going to create this real friction, this real tension, which is part of the plan. They want a divided nation. They want this battle because the vaccinated people, they're virtuous. They're selfless. The unvaccinated ones, like Cole Beasley, who's fighting with teammates who think he's selfish, they're going to ostracize anyone like that. They're wearing armbands in the NFL, wristbands they have wristbands for unvaccinated players. They were going to use
That's nice.
yellow
Yeah, right, I was
stars.
gonna say, did the stars not stick or
Yeah,
something?
they kept falling off, so they had to come
Okay.
up with a better
Great
system.
one.
So now it's wristbands. And what do you think? How do you think the average ignorant moron out there, which is much of the country, is going to think when they see people with gold wristbands? They're going to think, "You son of a bitch! You don't care about me. You won't get a little injection. And there's gonna be fighting in the streets. I mean, there already is, but it's going to get much worse. I hope you're ready, Turtle Boy, because you're
I
one
am,
of
but
those
here's the thing.
crazy anti-vaxxers.
But here's the thing, Jerry. They're gonna have to come to terms with the fact that there is a racial component to this too. And I don't. This is kind of the underreported story. There are certain segments of the community that are more resistant to vaccination and are rightfully questioning it because of a long and documented history of government experimentation with vaccines on certain races, and they are resisting it. And a lot of them play in the NFL. It's going to be an issue, and eventually the Democrats are going to realize that's a big part of our base that we are ostracizing here and calling killers because they won't take a vaccine because the white government told them to.
Right, and they want you to believe it's Trump voters, it's rural religious people who get their cue from Laura Ingraham and Tucker, which is so absurd. You could check this, Matt, but I believe the number of vaccinated African Americans is below 50%, well below. I think it's only 35% or 40%. They're not even close to their target number for Black Americans. They're not. And Hispanic too. They're all not only you have a combination, Turtle Boy, of skeptical people because of Tuskegee and people who are not just skeptical, they're young and they're in good shape, or they're young and they're just not vulnerable, and they say, I don't want an injection from some unproven vaccine. So they resist for perfectly sound reasons. And that isn't it kind of funny when you see someone like a Biden or a Harris or whoever, Walensky, Fauci, and people are defiant or skeptical. They can't their brain is wired. They're authoritarians at heart, and they think,
Yes.
I'm in the case of Fauci or Jill Biden, they're doctors. So they think, they look down on you and say, what are you serfs doing? Questioning me, just because I
am the science. I am the science.
All right.
He is the science.
That's true. Fauci said, I am science. He is like that Alec Baldwin character in the movie, I Am God. They believe that. And they can't believe how many millions of people are not accepting as gospel the word from them on high. That I've been in medicals. I've been in this job 50 years. Or in the case of Biden, I got 80 million votes. How can you question my wisdom? I think it's a lot of fun to watch the reaction to the authoritarians. And by the way, the media people too, the people on CNN or the guy like Geraldo, they're like, where do these people get off questioning our order, our edicts? Cuomo's like that, Whitmer's like that, Baker, all these tyrants are going, what's the number on vaccines? We were supposed to be at 70 or 80%, and we're only at 50. What is wrong with these people? Don't they understand?
Yeah, maybe if they talk down to people a little bit more and act a little bit more condescending, they'll be apt to get it. Maybe that might work.
It's true. Like the other day when Biden said, if you haven't gotten the vaccine, you're not as smart as I thought you were. I'm like,
yes. Yeah.
Boy, how many people got convinced that day?
You know what? I was on the fence, Jerry. And then Joe Biden, of all people, told me I was stupid. So I'm like, and he makes a lot of good points. I'm going to go.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to get it, you might as well get like a cheeseburger or some fries or, a free beer. I mean, that didn't work. So
that's right. I forgot about that. Bill de Blasio eating burgers.
De Blasio said, and I don't even believe the burger was included. I think it was just an order of fries. If you got vaccinated, you got an order of fries. By the way, that's de Blasio's way of reaching out to the minority community. We'll give you some fast food if you just come in and get the injection, some free fast food. And these a-holes don't understand why it's not working. It's beautiful to watch. I like the resistance. I mean, I'm not looking forward to blood in the streets, but I'm looking forward to seeing more people like you, Turtle Boy, in wherever, Walmart or whatever, just saying, And the good ones are the ones who say, read up. There's no reason for this mask. I'm vaccinated. I've had COVID. Get away from me. They're not just doing it to be dicks like you. I mean, they're doing it to be. They're you know what they're following? The science. That's what they're following. The science. People who get COVID don't get it again. Kids don't get COVID, and if they do, they don't even know it. The kids do not die. They do not go.
We're lucky.
See the number.
Can I just say, our boy, we're lucky to have Charlie Baker right now. You know that, right? If we had a Democrat governor, we would have a mask mandate by now. You know that. Charlie Baker.
We have a Democrat governor, and it's coming. It's coming.
You don't understand how much worse it could be. I'm the biggest Baker critic in the world, Jerry. To his credit right now, he is holding the line with this because there's a lot of pressure. I don't think he's going to bring it back, at least right now. I mean, eventually he'll cave. But to his credit so far.
So eventually he'll cave.
Maybe. Well, then we'll shit on him. But for now, it appears that he is holding the line, and he should be credited for that.
All right. There's a couple things I want to get to here. I told you about de Blasio. We're going to play it. The sound is unbelievable. But not only are they is the Biden regime doing this by design. They looked for a reason to bring back a mask mandate. They're looking for a reason to bring back either masking children up or having them on a virtual class. They have the teachers union, these evil teachers union people talking about, well, we don't know if we're ready to go back to school, after a year and a half. We don't know. We're going to see. We're going to check the science, and they'll handpick some study out of India and say, well, see, we're going to have to do this on Zoom. Some of these teachers haven't spent enough time, lounging by the pool. They need a little, September's a nice time to be at the beach too, So we'll see what happens with schools. That's the real, epicenter of the battle is, do kids go to school? And when they go to school, do they wear masks? I'm watching the Olympics this morning, and it's so absurd. There's no fans because of COVID, and the athletes, the most fit people in the world, are putting their masks on, and they can only take them off for 30 seconds in the medal stand, and no one could touch the medal. They have to put their own medal on, and all these absurd little rules and guidelines that everyone knows are not based in science. Everyone knows it's just theater, and some people just numbly, mindlessly.
How come people in Japan aren't vaccinated? Like, how come why 15% of their country's vaccinated? Yeah. Why? I thought they make things better than
Joe Biden says because they're stupid. That's what he told me. They're stupid.
Is it because they don't have access
amazing.
to it?
The numbers in some countries are amazing. There's countries where it's 20%, 25%. People are just saying, no, COVID is not that unless you're obese or unless you're 80 years old. You take your chances. You get COVID. You recover. And if you recover, you have stronger immunity than if you get vaccinated. But Joe Biden yesterday, and I just want to play this because it makes me laugh, but he was in Allentown, PA. This is, I think, his first public appearance after reinstituting the mask guidelines. Obviously, they're not mandates yet. They're guidelines, which is all it takes for people in blue states. Oh, a guideline. Give me my mask. And so he makes his first public appearance, and he's talking about, I don't know, destroying the economy, whatever he's talking about. And he's at a trucking company. Do I have that right, Carano? It's at a trucking company? And, usual kind of photo op thing, and he's looking at trucks, and when your brain is pretty much gone, trucks are kind of cool. It's like being a child again. You see trucks and you go, oh, trucks. So the president was looking at the trucks, and did you hear what he said, Turtle Boy? Did you hear this?
I did hear that clip on Hot Mic.
and this, I love Biden lies because they're just so unnecessary. When he talks about corn pop, or his father said this, his mother said that, or he just lies so casually, because for a lifetime now, literally 60 years, 50 years, he's been telling these kind of lies, and nobody calls him on it. Nobody cares. They just accept accept them as good old Joe, just making stuff up again. He goes to the trucking company, and he says he used to drive an 18-wheeler.
I believe. And if we don't drive an 18-wheeler, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish
I used to drive an 18-wheeler, man.
I used to drive an 18-wheeler.
When?
This is a guy who was elected to the Senate when he was 29, who's never had a real job, who's never earned a check in the private sector. And he says it like, I guess I understand why he said it, because most of the media will cover it, won't cover it. They'll just ignore it and say, whatever. They'll just ignore it and let him get away with it. But it is frightening that the guy's not only cognitively in decline, and not only is he's severely compromised mentally, but he just tells lies and thinks we're all going to believe it. So if I said this about the big fat cop, Capitol Hill cop, Harry Dunn, if you're going to lie about how Brian Sicknick died, how could we believe anything else you say? So, I mean, obviously he's making it up. That story about being called the N-word, obviously there's no witnesses, no video, no audio, no nothing. He's just making it up. By the way, did you see what he did last night?
Dunn?
Yeah, Dunn.
What did he do last night?
He went to dinner with Don Lemon.
Of course. Don Lemon. Did he really? By the way, I was listening to the show yesterday with, that spectacle on Tuesday was one of the most amazing theater I've ever seen from that Finoni guy. I mean, I've never seen a guy that loves attention more than that guy. The best clip of him was the 30 seconds of pause that one of the congresswomen asked him, tell me about your feelings that day. And he does this thing. He puts the dip. He had a dip in his mouth the whole time.
Did he?
Oh, he had a dip the whole time.
What is that accent? What is that Finoni accent?
It's all part of the theater. He's going for this whole thing. You know, a guy like me, tattoos, dip, probably think I'm a Trump supporter, don't you? Well, guess what? I'm a liberal. Yeah, that's what you get for judging a book by its cover, don't you? That's the look he's going for. That's why they want him up there, is because he looks like a typical Trump supporter. That's why they chose him. There's hundreds of cops that could have had testified. They chose those four. Why is that?
Well, because they're good actors. They're following the script that Nancy Pelosi wrote. Nancy Pelosi's staff wrote for them, but they're liars. I mean, Harry Dunn is obviously a liar. We all know Brian Sicknick didn't get beaten to death. But again, he's like Biden. He's surrounded by people who tell him, who don't question him, who don't don't tell him he's full of it. But Fanon is a joke. He's on CNN every night. I said this yesterday, but 2 nights ago he was on CNN. When the interview was over, Don Lemon got up, walked over, and hugged him and told him he loved him. These guys are all part of this. This well choreographed stunt, this show. That's all they are. I mean, you can't ask. Just keep in mind as you watch these hearings again, you're not allowed to ask how many FBI agents, informants were in the crowd. It's kind of an important thing. We've learned that with that Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping scheme,
they outnumbered the schemers.
Right. It was like 12-2, and the schemers were dummies. I don't know if you read. Glenn Greenwald had a great piece on all the plots, the terrorist plots that the FBI has orchestrated and who they've used, like the kids. And he went through some of these Muslim plots to blow up a bridge. And he's got a story of one Muslim, I think he was like a 17, 18-year-old. No, he was in his 20s, but he lived at home and he didn't have a job and he was not that bright. And Greenwald says he still called his mother mommy. and he was portrayed by the FBI as some, the next bin Laden who's going to, they just make this stuff up. And Greenwald lays it out. They go to hearings when they're looking to increase the budget. And they say, look, we broke up this plot to blow up this bridge or to kidnap the governor. This is one of the great accomplishments the FBI has ever pulled off. They encouraged the insurrectionists to storm the Capitol, obviously playing right into the hands of the media and Pelosi and the Democrats. And now you're not allowed to ask how big a role they played. You're not allowed to ask how many FBI informants were in the crowd. People have done great work on this. A couple of people like Julie Kelly from American Greatness and Revolver. And they've gone through the police reports, the arrest reports, and they've seen certain guys who were very instrumental, who were leading the crowd. They could on the video, saying, "Let's go," and they've determined that they weren't arrested. They were let go. So they've concluded that must be an informant. There's one really good video of an older guy saying, let's go to the Capitol. We're going in. And the crowd starts chanting, Fed, 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 Fed. He was so obvious that he didn't work. I mean, he looks like me. He's like, this old, wrinkly old guy. And he's saying, come on, everybody, we're going to go in the Capitol. We're going to take over overthrow this. And they all start yelling Fed. It was funny.
So question, so I thought we voted against having this whole commission. Didn't we filibuster this or something? How is this even happening right now? That's the part I was confused about. I thought we killed this. And so is this like a backup?
Filibusters in the Senate. This is the House. This is Pelosi.
Okay. But so why aren't there any Republicans on this committee?
She kicked them off. Jim Jordan was so Kevin McCarthy initially got to pick the Republicans. He picked Jim Jordan and Jim Banks. Jim Jordan on this committee would be a beast. He'd be going right at Fanone, going right at Harry Dunn. They wouldn't be allowed to tell these lies without being questioned.
All right.
So she kicks them off, and she picks this pathetic stooge.
But why? How come there's all these other hearings where I see Matt Getz questioning people? Why isn't? I don't know how this works. Why isn't there one of those?
Because she had the right to handpick the Republicans, and she picked these useful idiots, Kinzinger, who was crying.
I know that, but why doesn't she do that every time then? How come I've seen other congressional hearings where Republicans ask questions?
This was a rare use of that power where she didn't. In fact, I've never heard of it, where you kick off a Republican because he won't abide by your rules. I mean, Jim Jordan's first question would have been, do you know why? Do you know why the speaker didn't call for backup? Do you know why? Because she didn't, but you're not allowed to ask that. His second question would be, do you know how many FBI informants were in that crowd? It would have been spectacular if you had Jim Jordan, but you have, sadly, as you know, they don't have these kind of people in the Democrat Party, only in the Republican. You have pathetic little stooges like Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, Pelosi Republicans, who will not go there, which is embarrassing.
We have Kirsten Sinema, Jerry, and Joe Manchin.
I mean, just because she's hot and she's bisexual doesn't make.
She also stopped the infrastructure bill.
That's true. She did. And she runs marathons. She's a beast. I like Kirsten Sinema, but she wouldn't do this. Only Republicans turn and stab their own party in the back like Liz Cheney and Kinzinger. But before we get to that, I got to get to de Blasio. I promised it. We got to hear. Here's what's coming, people. At least in blue states, like ours, you're going to hear this from more mayors and more governors. And you think Baker's reluctant to do this, but I don't. Tell me that Phil Murphy and Lamont and Newsom and Whitmer and Cuomo won't say the same thing aren't thinking the same thing that de Blasio's thinking. Because again, he says the quiet part out loud. You're not supposed to say this. But he believes it, and it's coming to a blue state near you.
We've got to shake people at this point and say, come on now. We tried voluntary. We could not have been more kind and compassionate as a country. Free testing everywhere you turn, incentives, friendly, warm embrace. The voluntary phase is over. We can keep doing those things. I'm not saying shut it down. I'm saying voluntary alone doesn't work. It's time for mandates.
Time for mandates. And listen to the logic. He thinks that people should have got vaccinated because it was free and because they were really nice about it. He thinks that people who are holding out, like young, healthy people, or people like you, or people like Cole Beasley, who aren't susceptible to the virus, are willing. You want to take your chances, or again, people who've had COVID and don't need the vaccine. Those people, he thinks they should have coaxed them into the clinics for a shot because they were really nice and they offered incentives. They offered cheeseburgers and beers and ice cream.
Vax millions.
And it's time for mandates. So this guy, who's the elected mayor of the biggest city in the country, thinks that you can come down, I guess, with a federal mandate and say everyone must be vaccinated. It's scary, but it's coming. It's coming. I mean, it might be on a state level. It might be, essentially the private sector. They're already doing it at Google and Facebook, and all these left-wing, Silicon Valley companies are all saying you must be vaccinated. And by the way, if they don't require a vaccine, they will, like that CNN doctor said, they're going to make your life miserable. You're going to show up at work if you're not vaccinated, and they're going to stick that swab up your nose every day, every morning. You must be tested. Now put your mask on. You go sit over in the corner. Everyone else is over here. You can't come to our conference room. You can't come to lunch. If we travel, you got to stay in your room. They're going to just make it so difficult that lots of people throw up their arms, Turtle Boy, and just say, I give up. Give me the shot. That's how it's going to work.
The check on that, though, is I think, a lot of businesses now are remote and see the benefit of that. So, I mean, something as big as Google has a huge campus. They're going to require their people to come back to work. But
I think
they're not going to be able to force people who work from home to get the shot. They're just not going to be able to.
But most people, I mean, again, look at schools. Schools is going to be the big flashpoint. You don't want to be remote, obviously. You don't want to keep your kid in front of a TV, a computer screen, another day. They want them in school. They want them interacting. And to do that, they're going to require a mask, and soon it'll probably be requiring a vaccine for 10-year-olds. It's utter madness, and it's all part of the plan. They want us at each other's throats. That's all by design, and it's not going to go well.
I thought he was going to bring the country together. Wasn't that the Biden thing? I'm going to crush the virus.
He said that while he was driving an 18-wheeler. Now he's president. Things have changed. But we've talked about Cole Beasley. Obviously, I've built up, I've hyped the Tom Brady announcement, and I'm still waiting. What is wrong with these Tampa guys? The one guy I'm talking to says, as soon as we get access, we're going to ask them. Apparently, they've had no access because Brady has not been put on the spot and said, are you vaccinated? Because when he is put on the spot, we're all going to know, we're all going to hear it, because I don't believe he's vaccinated.
Spoiler alert, he's not. There's no way Tom freaking Brady, you got like Mr. Magical Medicine Alex Guerrero, is getting vaccinated. Stop it.
Okay, when do you what do you think his answer will be then? Do you think it'll be, it's personal, it's private? I talked to my daughter. Is it going to be some convoluted duck dodge?
It'll be some Bradyism. It won't be anything substantial or newsworthy or anything like that. It'll say something to the extent of, I think everybody should take care of themselves, and everyone should do what's best and stay healthy and take care of yourselves.
Yeah, well, anything but yes is a no. Anything but yes is a no. Who was the quarterback of Carson Wentz who said that's personal and private yesterday, which is a no. But Cole Beasley, he's got balls. He flat out says, I'm not doing it. He says he's not anti-vax. He's pro-choice. And he's pissed because they're not providing players with any information any balance in the information. All they're giving them is pro-vax stuff. All they're saying is, here's why you have to get vaccinated. There's no info that the union or the teams, the league, are providing the players, which would lead to any skepticism. They don't want that. And Beasley's done his own homework. He's probably, reading some of these forbidden websites. He probably follows some of those 12 people that the Biden administration has targeted, those 12 influencers, the doctors and scientists who are skeptical of the
You think the Bosa brothers are getting the vaccine, Jerry?
I do not. I
don't think so.
You know what he's probably following Marty McCary, the Johns Hopkins doctor who is skeptical of the Biden.
And it doesn't even take like reading stuff. All you have to do is look at what's coming from, the government or governmental sources like the CDC. Like you hear that they're telling you that kids need to be vaccinated, but no kids have died from the COVID without, some sort of comorbidity or something. So all you have to do is just say, well, they're just not telling me all the truth. So why would I put this in my body?
Not only are they not telling you the truth, Rochelle Walensky got on TV and lied to you yesterday about double the amount of kids dying from COVID than influenza, which is a Google away to find that out. If you have to lie to get people to put something in their bodies,
and you should
then I don't trust what you're putting in their body.
And consider this not just lying. I mean, they're suppressing any arguments, any debate. They're suppressing any opinion or fact that they don't like, they call their friends in Silicon Valley and say, take this down, cancel this person, suspend them, ban them. That should scare everybody. That's called fascism. That is frightening. There was a number I saw yesterday, and I wrote it down. The number of children hospitalized, not dead from COVID, is 3 in a million. Three kids out of every million who get the virus are hospitalized. 3 in a million. How many die? 0. Anyway, and we all know that. And occasionally Marty McCary writes something for the Wall Street Journal, and it slips through the censors, and you see it. And Cole Beasley reads it, and Nick Bosa reads it, and suddenly they're saying, "Wait a second, there's two sides to this." The NFL will not allow, like most businesses, they will not allow that other side. That, to me, is the scariest. That's the most un-American thing here. Is it's one thing for the Biden regime or even, governors or even Google to say, get vaccinated. But people, and including media people, reporters who applaud the suppression of information, who applaud the shutting down of any debate from the other side. How does that not make everyone a little queasy? Any person? The media, journalists are applauding the regime's effort to shut down debate. It's just scary. But
it's a partnership. Yeah, I said this on the last episode. I'll probably say it on every episode. The corporate media is the enemy of the United States. I mean, they're the information spearhead, of the administration. They're on the side of the government. They're not on the side of the people.
The best thing Donald Trump ever did was really just expose the media and everything that we always knew they were a little biased, but he really. It was eye-opening what he got them to do, the things that he got them to do. And we all saw it with our own eyes, and we realized just how fake they really are.
And they indeed, they're an enemy of the people. They're not looking to tell you the truth. They're not looking to enlighten you or inform you. They're looking to do the bidding of the federal government, do the bidding of the Biden regime. And it hasn't always been that way. There used to be some bias, but occasionally you'd get real reporters. There's no real reporters.
They're all independent.
Washington Post.
It's like Glenn Greenwald is a good example of that. They're all independent now.
Right. They're foot soldiers. The people that used to be reporters are now foot soldiers, doing the bidding of the Biden regime. And it's not just voting laws. It's literally trying to get kids injected with an unproven medicine, and parents who resist are just impediments. They're in the way. We got to get rid of those people so we can get the kids and vaccinate them and get another billion for Pfizer. It's scary. It's a scary time.
Yeah.
But can we hear from Cole Beasley? Because the story is that Cole Beasley was fighting with, I believe, Jerry Hughes, a teammate, and we can come to our own conclusions, but it's going to be, they're literally making unvaccinated players wear wristbands in Pittsburgh, in Tampa. Although I just read the story from Tampa, they wear wristbands indoors. If you're unvaccinated, you don't have to wear them outdoors. So the media hasn't seen the players indoors. So we don't know if Tom Brady has a wristband, if Tom Brady is forced to wear a wristband. But see, in my mind, Brady wouldn't do it. He'd say, I'm not doing it. What are you going to do? It's Tom Brady. He'd say, I'll do what I want. Right? He didn't wear a mask last year. All the other players wore masks. On the field after the game, after the NFC title game, after the Super Bowl, you never saw Brady with a mask. He just doesn't think he needs it. He's not going to wear that wristband. But I believe the Steelers and the Bucks and probably some other teams are forcing players who don't get vaccinated to wear the wristbands, which creates, again, more tension, another divide. And players who are vaccinated and don't think it's a big deal are confronting the players who are holding out. And Beasley he's not a huge star, but he's not a scrub. He's not going to just get cut. The guys who are scrubs are just going to get cut. Beasley's hanging in there, and he's standing his ground. It's pretty impressive. But can we hear from Beasley yesterday when he talked about this?
Yeah, I cut this into 3 sections. So here's the first one.
I wanted to start this off by saying I'm not anti or pro-vax. I'm pro-choice. With that being said, the issue at hand is information is being withheld from players in order for a player to be swayed in a direction he may not be comfortable with. When dealing with a player's health and safety, there should be complete transparency regarding information that is vital in the decision-making process. Without having all the proper information, a player can feel misguided and unsure about a very personal choice. It makes a player feel unprotected and gives concerns about future topics regarding health and our ability to make educated decisions. With regard to our overall safety, we have to know we are armed with full knowledge and understanding that those who are in a position to help us will always do that based on our individual situation.
I think that is pretty much like the most reasonable take you can have.
That is so good. First of all, he's wearing a mask, but it's not covering his nose. It's one of those deals where they force him to wear a mask, but he wears it improperly, kind of to be like Turtle Boy, to be a rebel.
Love it. Love it.
Secondly, how can you argue with a guy who says, we just want all the information? That's all. The NFL's not giving it to us. They're giving us one side. What's the argument against that? You can't allow people to be as informed as possible. That's not allowed. That's un-American. That's scary. And I understand why they're all in this together. All the big corporations, and I sound like Alex Jones now, but they're all in this together. They're all in this major effort to get as many people vaccinated as possible, so Biden can brag and say we eradicated the virus, and that makes people more skeptical. They say, why are you suppressing that information? Why can't I hear from that person? And Beasley, I think, is frustrated. He's saying, why don't the players get all the information? I mean, 90% of them won't even read it, but why can't you give it all to us and let us decide? God bless this guy. He might get cut. They might make his life so difficult he quits. He said he might. He said he will. He has enough money, but they're going to try to make his life and anyone else. And you're right, Turtle Boy. There's a lot of young black guys who are just as skeptical, maybe for different reasons, but they're holding out. And how many people in the NFL? Like 1,600 players or something. If you get 100, that's a big deal. 100 holdouts, 100 guys who have
have some stars though. Got to have some stars. DeAndre.
Well, you got DeAndre Hopkins. Beasley is a Pro Bowler.
Jalen Ramsey.
I don't know if he's a star, and you got number 12 in Tampa, and Carson Wentz, not a star, but he's a quarterback. I mean, you got a few guys, and once they all are put on the spot that you have to prove you're vaccinated or wear this, yellow star, then you got a big story.
Yeah.
But
not only that, if pressure starts to come on you, and you're exactly right, if there's 100 players, say they get cut or something, they're going to point to their coworkers. They're going to point to the stars and say, well, Tom Brady's not vaccinated either. I know that for a fact. And then the questions are going to start happening.
That's a good point. Like some guys, they cut some scrub that won't get vaccinated in Tampa, and he says, what about Tom?
Exactly.
That will be good. But all right, we've spent enough time. We spent enough time.
Can we argue about Simone Biles?
Yes, let me do Shay. Can I do Shay right here, and then we'll talk about Simone Biles. Turtle Boy hates her. You think she?
I was represented wrongly on your program yesterday.
Oh, good. That's what we want to hear. All right, I'm going to do Shay. Do I have to do anything else on this, Carano, or just Shay?
Shay.
All right, let's talk about Shay Concrete. All right, Simone Biles, as we all know, the greatest gymnast in American Olympic history, 30 medals and 4 golds, and we all know the story. She bowed out after one lame vault, which a lot of her critics forget. She tried. She went out there and tried in the team competition before she bowed out for mental health reasons. I defended her. It was a little strange because I was on the other side of the debate from Turtle Boy and Matt Walsh and Clay Travis and all you Neanderthals, Pierce Morgan, who called her, or Charlie Kirk, who called her a sociopath. Okay.
Charlie Kirk was ridiculous. I'll give you.
He was
absurd. That was absurd.
Sociopath. But she was criticized by a lot of you cavemen, you knuckle draggers. I will say that she didn't do herself any favors in that press conference where she talked about how it wasn't fun and she has to put herself first. And she didn't sound like she was having a mental breakdown. She sounded like, a spoiled millennial, which is what she's been called. But I do think it's different than whatever, Scottie Pippen, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, you name it. I do think the abuse she suffered for years is a factor.
Okay, time out. When has she ever stated that is anything to do with why she's stepping out?
She stated it the other day. She talked
she
about,
didn't. She didn't state it.
Not at the press conference. She talked about Larry Nassar, but I don't care. You heard
if that's what she said, if she was saying that my mental health issues that are causing me to not vol right now stem from this, that would be one thing. She's never once said that. All of you people are putting that in her mouth.
So you're telling me a victim of sexual abuse, if she doesn't give you details, you can't use that as an excuse. That's not a reason. Unless she relives the horror, unless she sits before the world and relives the horror that was being abused by Larry Nassar, you can't consider that a factor.
Gerry, she performed in 2016 at the Olympics, and she was abused by Nassar more recently back then. It happened more recently before 2016, and she still performed at a world-class level. How about this theory, Gerry? She just had a bad day. It was in her head. Have you seen Ben Simmons shoot free throws? Have you seen Bill Buckner? Have you seen Chuck Knobloch attempt to throw the ball from second base? There's a difference between mental health issues, which is a serious medical condition, and a mental block that stops a professional athlete from making greatness. And guess what? It's okay. It's okay to have a mental block. Not everybody is Tom Brady.
Yeah, but that's a bad argument when you say when it manifested itself this time as opposed to before. Like you know that mental health can wield its ugly head at any point in time, and that Kirk Minahan's a great example. And Sacco was his worst day. He still performed that night, and he was a complete mess. She decided, I'm a mess. I'm not doing it. It can rear its ugly head at time.
By the way, so you're not criticizing her. I mean, again, Charlie Kirk was over the top. Others who called her a coward.
No, I'm not criticizing her. What I'm saying is that's fine. She's just, don't talk to me about GOAT with her. Don't talk to me about greatest of all time, because this kills her. When it comes to your sports legacy, her sports legacy is now damaged as a result of this, because the greatest of all time does not tap out on the biggest stage. Okay. And it's not a mental health issue. It's a mental block. Do you understand the difference between Chuck Knobloch's mental block issues that caused him to be unable to throw to first base and an actual mental health crisis that causes that Junior Seau had? That's a mental health crisis.
She said essentially she before I think it was a couple of days before she tapped out. I think she talked about there was just so much pressure. The pressure was too much. I agree. Yep. The pressure's too much. I don't want to say she's a choker, and I'll tell you why. I consider first of all, the danger. When you're doing the things she does, it's dangerous. This isn't Scottie Pippen refusing to play the last 2 seconds of a game, or even Ben Simmons taking free throws. This is people who wanted her to suck it up and go out there don't consider what she was being asked to do. The stunts she does, the tricks she does are dangerous if your mind isn't right. And she knew it, and she tried the vault, and it was terrible. It was embarrassing that the greatest gymnast couldn't even complete this simple vault. So she said, I'm going to hurt my team. I'm out of here. You're going to call that cowardly? You're going to call that
cowardly? What are you talking? I never called it cowardly.
I can't keep you Neanderthal straight. I'll find out each word, each adjective, all you used. But did you call her weak? Weak? Because that's another Charlie Kirk one. She's weak.
I did not. I'm just saying. Don't talk to me about GOAT. Don't talk.
Okay, I won't. I don't. Okay, Turtle, you tell me. You tell me who's the GOAT. Who's the GOAT if she's not the GOAT?
Allie Raisman's got 2 Olympics with gold medals. Simone Biles has 1. So Allie Raisman is a better, and Gabby Douglas is a better gymnast all time than her, because they did it twice and she did it once. She brought us back to the days of Alicia Sacramone losing to the Red Chinese. We lost to Russia, and it is what it is. Okay, just don't talk. She's got GOAT on the back of her thing. She embraced this. She wanted to be the greatest of all time. She's not, and that's okay. And what I'm really pissed off about are the freaking sexist kid clubs, because that's what you are. You're a massage therapist, Gerry. You're a sexist. You these lowered expectations you have for women that, oh no, we can't. If a man did what she did, everybody in the sports world would be talking about this. Sports talk radio exists.
Nah, you can have some nuance about this stuff and know that her back history is that her growth has been stunted. She was sexually abused. She has been put through physical, mental, mental, emotional trauma her entire life. You look at that entire backstory, you can have some nuance to your arguments.
I will.
The same thing of a dude. Same thing.
And I will agree.
It's the same stuff.
Just let me agree with my friend, the Turtle Man over here. I would absolutely treat a guy differently. I mean, first of all, I don't think a lot of guys have been abused by the team doctor. I could be wrong. Scottie Pippen, maybe the guy, diddled him. The team doctor, the Bulls team doctor, maybe that he diddled Scottie Pippen before he refused to go in the game. Oh, that's right. I remember the team doctor, the Red Sox, abusing Bill Buckner. It was awful. I mean, he went in the shower with him and he said, I'm going to wash you today. It was brutal, but Buckner, he suffered, and that's why the ball went through his legs. That's so stupid. Of course we have a different standard for girls. Of course the abuse is worse, is magnified with a girl. And I don't think any of the guys you referenced were not allowed to go through puberty. We're not allowed to grow. These girls are abused from the time they're 4. She's been abused for 20 years. Aside from the fact that her mother was a drug addict and put her up for adoption, there's story after story about this girl's life and what she's been through. Yes, I have some sympathy for that. And if it were a guy, and I can't even think of a guy gymnast, give me one, Turtle Boy.
I couldn't tell you. It's not a sport. Men's gymnastics isn't a sport. No one cares about men's
gymnastics. If it were Chuck Knobloch, I would definitely treat him differently. This killed me the other day because people like Matt Walsh and Clay Travis, who were saying, oh, this is a double standard. We wouldn't do this for a guy. 2 days before that, they were talking about the effort to draft women into the military, and they were screaming how ridiculous that is, and it is. Of course we have a double standard. Are you going to pull that card on me?
That's sexist. Unlike you, I'm not a massage therapist, Jerry. I'm not a sexist person.
What do you mean a massage therapist?
Misogynist, whatever it's called. I am not one of those people. I treat women equally. I believe in complete equality, and I would treat her just like any other superstar athlete, which she is. She is a superstar athlete. And she deserves to be criticized for what she did.
I've never been a massage therapist. I told you I drove 18-wheelers before I started.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Sure you did.
No, of course that's where your argument just falls apart. Like, you treat girls differently. Of course we do. Girls get sexually abused by team doctors. I can't stand watching gymnastic coaches. Gymnastic coaches give me the creep.
Did you miss the Catholic Church? You were an altar boy, Jerry.
Yes, and I was never touched, and I thought I was kind of cute.
You were an ugly kid, yeah.
It always kind of hurt my feelings. I don't know what happened. I was an altar boy for 3 years. I was in the middle of it was going on all around me where I lived. It was going on like in towns all around me, and I've served a number of different priests, and not one of them, touched my bum. Not one.
So it's just like can I read the Crenshaw tweet?
Is it something? Am I home?
I'm trying to change the subject. Priests touching you, Jerry, is just, I just ate. Can you give me a break?
I've talked about this before. I would have been a victim, but my father was always around. All the victims had one thing. I don't want to get into this now. We don't have time, but all the victims had one thing in common. Well, 2 things. They were cute. These priests, they have some standards, some taste, but their fathers were not around. I have a friend, I've told the story before. He was an altar boy. The priest cornered him in the rectory, was making the moves on him. He said, I got to go to the bathroom. And he jumped out the bathroom window and ran home in West Roxbury. And went home and told his mother, and his mother said, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. His father had died. My point is he had no father. Those were the ones these scumbags went after. And I had a father, and he was always around, or else I might have been a victim. But we can talk about that another day.
Can I read this? This is what inspired me with this rant. The Dan Crenshaw tweet when he said, Simone Biles has been making America and Houston proud for years. She has been the woman in the arena, a place that internet trolls know nothing about. We can be disappointed in her decision, but until you're the one stepping up to win gold, maybe sit this one out. And that's what pissed me off. It's like, no. She's a star athlete. That's what sports talk radio people like Clay Travis do. They give their opinions on sports media and people in the media and people that are star athletes. She entered this arena. You are fair for criticism, okay?
Of course. No one's saying you're not fair for criticism. Clay Travis says...
He just said that. Dan Crenshaw just said that. If you've never been in that position, you can't have an opinion on this.
Okay, I disagree. We obviously, everyone has a right to their opinion. That's dumb. But I'll say this: we can find common ground because I'll agree. There's things that are. She's not a hero, as I tweeted yesterday, as we talked about yesterday. There's nothing heroic. She's not brave. Those descriptions are absurd. There was an article in where was this? I think it was Time or Newsweek, and the woman who wrote it, she said what she did was more impressive than winning gold. And I started reading the thing. I'm going, how can you flip this thing over to make it like she tapped out? I agree. How is that more impressive than winning gold? People have lost their minds on this subject. Speaking of losing their minds,
by the way, if Megan Rapinoe did the same thing, Jerry, you would be all over her.
Yes, I agree.
You
I
like
agree.
Simone
Megan
Biles?
Rapinoe,
Nice
no one has more
and sweet.
privilege. I don't think Megan Rapinoe has been abused by coaches and doctors and trainers. Like Megan Rapinoe was allowed to
How
become.
do you know? What do you know about Megan Rapinoe's past? What do you know?
I know her brother is a drug dealer. That's all I know. But she's allowed to grow into the beautiful woman that she is and become a Victoria's Secret model. Simone Biles is 4'8". The poor girl is raised like veal. It's cruel. But speaking of stretches and maybe things we can agree on this, Jason Whitlock has a column. And again, I sit there sometimes with Whitlock and say, he sits down at the keyboard with one thought in mind. How can I, make a splash here? How can I create waves? How can I say something so outrageous that they'll come at me from all directions? And he does it. And I respect it on some days. He's got a whole column on how the treatment of Simone Biles is racist. It's all about race. And I'm going, racist? I spent friggin' 2 days talking about this. And you don't have to believe me, but the thought of her race never even entered my mind. We mentioned a coach in, I forget where was it. It was like Hungary or somewhere, who said one time that he wanted his players to paint themselves black because black people were better gymnasts. It's just stupid. But I don't think the treatment of Simone Biles has anything to do with race. But he talks about how the media is making this about race. And I'm saying, really? I'll give him credit. He's ripping everybody on Max Kellerman. And he says, he talks, I can't even read this line, but here's him talking about I can't stop saying Megan Rapinoe, talking about Simone Biles, and try to get your mind around this sentence. He says, Simone Biles, pothead swimmer, Sha'Carri Richardson. Isn't she a sprinter?
She's a track star.
Okay, I'll just read Whitlock's call from yesterday and think of it what you will. Simone Biles, pothead swimmer Sha'Carri Richardson, protesting hammer thrower Gwen Barry, and fragile tennis star Naomi Osaka, the cast members of the U.S. Olympic reality show Black Girls Tragic, live inside a protective bubble filled with the breast milk of Stacey Abrams, Michael Eric Dyson, Max Kellerman, Maxine Waters, and Maria Taylor. That's a sentence.
He's lost it. What the hell does that even mean? The
protective bubble is filled with the breast milk of Stacey Abrams. He says the truth is Biles' Olympic fold tramples Chris Webber's infamous NCAA tournament timeout, Bill Buckner's ghastly World Series blunder, Tony Romo's ignominious field goal flub, and Jean Van der Velde's shocking British Open collapse.
The reason that Simone Biles is getting this treatment is because she's a nice person, and people think she's small, so people think she's a child, and they forget that she's 24 years old. She can handle this. Like
I plead guilty to that too, Turtle. But I think she's a child. I think she's been forced to remain a child. She sounds like a child. She looks like a child. The whole team does, by the way. I just watched an interview with her teammates.
It is kind of creepy. Girls gymnastics, the way
I was going to ask you, you're a coach. You're a former track coach, but you're a former teacher. You're closer to this than we are. How do they do that? How do they keep these girls trapped in perpetual childhood?
I don't. It's creepy. It's got the whole lollipop guild thing going on. They kind of have that vibe to them because they're all small. The way they talk, they seem like machines, and they kind of are. Like my daughter did gymnastics until she was 4, and then when you hit age 5, All of a sudden, the price increases like 10 times, and you have to go every day for hours. I'm like, nope, we're not joining a cult.
My daughter
We'll do
did for like a
soccer.
year, and then she grew tall.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like a good fit unless you're one of these Lilliputians. It's yes. You know what? There's a double standard, not just among men and women or Scottie Pippen and Bill Buckner and this girl, but there's a double standard among female athletes. You're right.
I'm glad to know that sports talk radio can criticize anybody except women's gymnastics. I'm glad that's established now. That is the one sport that is off topic because of Larry Nassar. So we can't even talk about girls gymnastics anymore. So that's fine. So good to know the ground.
You know what? I'll agree with you on another thing. I love Allie Raceman. She was great on the Nassar thing, and she's just a good. She's a strong, spokesman. I like her style.
Speaking isn't her strength, but go ahead.
Well, did you remember from the Nassar thing? She didn't break down. She didn't go all Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah.
And she articulated it well, and she put
Allie Raceman, when she talks like this, and she really goes out there and she does her best every time. That's how Allie Raceman talks. But go ahead.
Well, the rest of them talk like they should be on, on Sesame Street or something.
She does have a little more personality. And Michaela Maroney had personality, didn't she?
I don't know, but don't you think, here's another reason I cut them slack and feel bad. When this is over, like when they're past their prime, when they're like 25, what do they do? They're just these tiny people who's, got a million injuries. They must get arthritis in every joint. And then their career is over and they become what? Like they don't become coaches. Coaches are these old perverted guys. The commentators, they don't really need them, but once every 4 years. What is Simone Biles? I know she'll be rich and she'll be a media darling, but what does she do for the next 50 years of her life?
That's a great question. Marketer. Hopefully she's made a lot of money now and starts saving and invest it. I mean, she'll have plenty of opportunities to make money. She'll be okay.
She was, but the cheering stops. I mean, her time in the spotlight is over. In fact, she's kind of old for this, isn't she? 24.
That's another question. How come they can't do it? Like Allie Raceman's like 26. Why is she too old for this? I don't get that.
Because they don't want to spend 20 hours a day with these old pervy coaches and grabbing them by the ass and flipping them over the damn pommel horse or whatever they do. It's just not a pleasant existence, I don't think. And I think any parent that wants their kids to be one of those little robots is abusive. I mean, that is just not a healthy way to grow up, as we see with Simone Biles and so many others. There's lots of Olympic sports I'd say that about. We talked about yesterday about swimmers, and they're not as screwed up as gymnasts, but they spend their whole life in the water, alone in their own thoughts. It's just not a healthy way to grow up. Just playing, one sport 12 hours a day, every day, getting sent away to these secret camps where these weirdo coaches are,
every single Olympic event is like that, Jerry. Like, who are the divers? Like, what do they do all the other 4 years? Every day, they just dive every day.
They just dive. That's all they do is dive.
The badminton. I was watching badminton late night last night. We had an American, Jerry, reach the quarterfinals. It's never happened before.
You're kidding.
She happened to be Chinese American, but that's a different story. So she's playing a red Chinese person. She got injured. She broke her ankle during the game, and the red Chinese won by forfeit. It was amazing. They wheeled her out.
Broke her ankle in a game of badminton?
In a game of badminton, they had to stop the game and end it and wheel her out of there. It was crazy.
Breaking news, the badminton girl who broke her ankle just killed herself because her life is over now.
That's it.
It just sad. You look at that and her whole life is badminton for one moment.
One moment. You get there, break your ankle. I mean, it goes fast. That thing goes fast. So you can break ankles pretty easily playing badminton.
Really? I know. I was watching, I mentioned yesterday, I think it was judo, and I had no idea what they were doing. They got these weird uniforms, and one of them, kicks the other one and then takes her helmet off and starts screaming and celebrating. I'm going, what just happened? Oh, she won gold. And they give her the same gold medal they gave, Carl Lewis. I'm saying, she really gets gold medal for that? Most people don't even know what it is, let alone tried it. And I mean, these aren't the best in the world. I'll say it again. If no one else has tried it, you can't be the best in the world at something. And I used to say it about the bobsled or the luge until I get a chance.
If I get a chance women's soccer team.
What?
Or the American women's soccer team. They're the most dominant in the world because how's the Portugal program? Right. How's the team in Qatar?
There's like 8 teams in the whole world, and they're the best.
It's like,
but anyway, all right. We don't know. We don't have time to get to AOC. Do we have time? Do you want to do AOC? No. AOC, we'll just sum it up if you haven't seen it, was interviewed. And she said on January 6th, not only did she think she was going to get murdered. Go ahead. Let's play.
Yeah,
This is so
ready?
unbelievable. You know, it's
this is
we'll
bad.
we'll go a little long because it's so good and it's so funny and she's so stupid. Let's listen to AOC talk about the horrors of January 6th.
Attack on the Capitol. You know, white supremacy and patriarchy are very linked in a lot of ways. There's a lot of sexualizing of that violence. And I didn't think that I was just going to be killed. I thought other things were going to happen to me as well.
So what sounds like what you're telling me right now is that you didn't only think that you were going to die, you thought you were going to be raped.
Yeah, that.
Okay, can we just add a little detail here? She wasn't in the Capitol. She never saw an insurrectionist. She never even saw, a MAGA grandma taking selfies. She was in another building. She wasn't almost killed. And the idea that, it wasn't good enough to say, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to get raped and then I was going to get murdered. Give her 2 weeks and then she'll say, I thought they were going to take me and make me a sex slave for the rest of my life somewhere. And I mean, she just makes stuff up. And again, if I went to BU, I'd be embarrassed every time she opens her mouth because she has to be the dumbest. I don't know, Reamer or AOC? Would you say the dumbest BU grad, Turtle Boy?
They're the same thing at this point. I don't. But that's what happened. That is an example of what happens when you turn victimhood into currency. They just keep making shit up to get richer.
And Dana Bash did a good job there too by making her commit, saying, "So what you're saying is you thought you were going to be raped," and she said she had to say yes. I mean, that's like she was cornered. Dana Bash did a good job there.
You know what? She saw those, Fanone and the big guy Harry Dunn and said, you know what? I got to get me some of that. These guys are getting a lot of adulation.
You can't prove she's not lying because how do you know? And maybe she did think that. Maybe she's that delusional that she actually thought that. You can't prove that somebody wasn't thinking something.
But you have to actually see something before you, say that you were that threatened. I mean, if you're not even in the building,
you never
encountered work. She
Yeah.
watched on TV and said, "Oh, they're going to rape me." I mean, it's just so silly. And I know she's going to be in our lives forever, at least the rest of my life. She's going to be in Congress for 40 years. She's going to be one of those lifers because, what else is she going to do? Go back to bartending? She's a real influencer with 12 million followers on Twitter. She could never run statewide, of
She
course.
could start a podcast tomorrow, Jerry, and be a multimillionaire.
Right. I know. And then she could pay for grandma's roof in Puerto
Yes,
Rico.
finally.
Roof.
Abuela.
She could get the repairs done for the abuela, but she doesn't want to. She wants to leave it to us, leave it to the taxpayers. But that's just so silly. And honestly, there's got to be someone in her world, someone who says, you're landing on a little thick there, Sandy. I mean, doesn't someone say you can't just tell that kind of silly? I guess it's not a lie, right? I mean, she's not lying.
Read the comments on our Instagram lives, Jerry. They love this shit. They love this.
Right. So do we. Well, anyway, thanks AOC for giving us a laugh. But anyway, that will do it for us today. Turtle Boy, thanks for, we didn't fight nearly enough. I think we agreed too much, but.
We talked about vaccines for too long. We should have started with Simone.
That's big. I'm just telling you I think we're going to find out that's big, and there's going to be some incidents, and you'll probably be involved in them where people are. Do you even own a mask at this point?
I got a couple lying around in my car. I use them to clean up spills if I get some ranch sauce on my face, but that's about it. I literally use them as napkins at this point.
Okay, good. Well, next time I see you, I feel like it's going to be on some cell phone camera video fighting at Home Depot with some crazy Karens. But we will talk to you next week. Thanks to Turtle Boy, and thanks to DCU and Allied Paving and Shea Concrete. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching and commenting. Look at all the comments here, Carano. Did you see any good ones?
Yeah, I've been commenting back a little bit here and there.
Oh, have you?
Of course.
Fighting. Oh, God.
No, I like to give people information if they need it. Like I'll drop some articles or, just depending on what it is.
All right, good. All right. Well, that'll do it. Thanks to Matt Carano, and thanks to everybody for listening and watching. Again, we really appreciate it. And go to Apple Podcasts, by the way. I like to tell people this on Thursday, and leave a review and leave a 5-star rating. We'd really appreciate it. That helps. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you again real soon.